All right, we are one day away from the end of quarter three in 2025, and I think this is a very critical point in the stock market. Tonight, I'm going to talk about exactly what I'm looking at for price action to give us direction on where we're going from here. And I do think in quarter four, we're going to see lots of exciting volatility and plenty of opportunities for more great trades. But there's going to be one very important signal through price that we're going to have to watch to ensure that we capitalize on the correct direction in the market. And all of that will be given to us through price, and we're not going to have to guess. It's just going to take patience and watching what I'm going to go over tonight. But before we get into that, let's feed our soul. Tonight, I want to go over John 3:16, one of my favorite verses in the Bible. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already, because they have not believed in the name of God's one and only Son. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. Now, by far, this is one of the most important verses to understand in the Bible, is that we are all already condemned and walking in the darkness, but what happened on the cross through the blood of Christ has saved us from that condemnation. And all we need to do right there is in verse 16, whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. And that is the gift that God offers us through his Son, Jesus Christ, that all of us can accept that gift. But what's important to note is that we have to accept that gift and we have to make that choice. God does not force us to do anything we do not want to do. It is 100% our free will if we're going to make that choice in our lives. But what's so beautiful about making that choice is that you give your life to the light and you have defeated that darkness and that evil, and you will live a very happy life and, of course, the promise of eternal life as well. So this week, I want to focus on praise, love, and positivity. And if any of you have that light in your life, please do not be ashamed to share it in the comments below. Let's all lift each other up and build each other up and spread true love and positivity and unification. All right, tonight I want to give you a very clear price action trigger, and I want to focus on the indices tonight because a lot of stocks are rotating around and individual names and tickers will be going all kinds of different directions. But tonight I'm talking about broad market direction and where we go from here. And I believe with this current chart, it's going to be very clear through price exactly where we are going to go over the next couple of weeks. And I do believe it is going to be a large move. So we really want to make sure we get the direction of that move correctly so that we can capitalize on it with our trading. So I want to illustrate this first by starting with the NASDAQ 100. We're looking at the triple Qs here. And last week I was talking about that gap fill with a very good probability, which I'm sure you remember what I said. And that was that target just below 592. And I was talking about even if we fill that gap, we could go a bit lower. But as long as we did not break down below this support at 585 in the context of a bull market, that is price action's way of saying it is just another higher low within a bull trend, which is higher lows and higher highs. So as long as we did not break down below 585, there was a good chance we just bounced from that support zone and continued higher yet again. And that was going to push us higher towards 604, or just in general, this zone up here, which is a brand new all-time high, which is another higher high within a bull trend. Now, I think everybody can understand the bull scenario. I don't want to spend too much time on that tonight. We're already bouncing off support, and it's just a matter of whether or not we break out to a new all-time high. And if we do break out to that new all-time high, you're looking for another price target anywhere now between about 607 to just below 610. So let's just call it 609. So you have a $2 range between 607 and 609 with a very comfortable area to lock profit. But what I want to caution you against tonight is the fact that when things turn around in a bull market, and if they do turn around, we need to see this through price. It is called the elevator down because the bulls take the stairs up, which is the higher lows and the higher highs as we continue to climb higher in the bull trend. But when that bull market rolls over and we start to get a correction, you are going to get what's called the elevator down, which means we go down faster than it took to go up. So for that reason, you want to be very well prepared for the bearish scenario. Even if you're taking the bull trade, that is completely fine, but you need to know what to look through in price if the bull trend rolls over and starts to move down, because it's going to happen rapidly. And because it'll happen rapidly, you need to make sure you're ready for it now so that you're simply just reacting when the time comes and you're not trying to make rash decisions while you're panicking or getting emotional through fear. So tonight, I want to spend extra time talking about the bearish scenario here because we did gap up for the week and we still have this open open gap here on the triple Qs, which is right here at 596.3. And because we know most gaps get filled, there's a very good probability this gap is going to fill. But more importantly, there is this other probability that this is a lower high rejection in the triple Qs. And if we gap down tomorrow, I'm going to repeat that because this is important. If we gap down tomorrow below this open gap, that is what is known as an island reversal. And it is a very bearish thing if it happens, where we could just start to flush completely down into the beginning of October. And yes, I do think it will happen very quickly because, as I said earlier, this is the elevator down effect. And the best way you are going to know this is going to happen is, one, we will gap down as soon as tomorrow, or we'll have an inside day tomorrow and gap down after that. But either way, there will be some sort of force that's pushing us lower, and it'll happen as soon as the market opens. And then the most important price action trigger you need to pay attention to is a breakdown below this very critical support at 585. That is the lower low breakdown. You could also watch this previous higher low, which is right around 591. But anywhere in this zone of support at 585 to 591, if price fails to hold and we start to break down below that support zone, that is an extremely good indication through price that we are going to move down very quickly. And I think at a minimum, we'll come down to 566. So I want you to be prepared for this. Again, this is not the expectation because we are in a bull trend in a bull market. It is completely fine if we just close the gap at 596 and break out to new all-time highs. But if we do break support on a gap down open tomorrow or Wednesday, be very prepared for this flush down look that's going to take us much lower. All that means is, as I always teach, have a trade plan. Make sure your trade plan knows exactly what you are going to do in both of these scenarios. Again, we have this scenario where we just break out into the 607 and 609 range and you're already staying long within the bull trend. And then we have this scenario where we gap down and start to flush down through support. And this is the extremely bearish scenario that's going to happen very quickly. If you are prepared for both of these, I think you're going to do very well. I don't think you need to panic. If you have a preference over which one, then simply just wait for the price action to trigger your exact trade. For example, if you're going to wait to short, just wait until price breaks down through support, and then you can enter that short trade. And if you're already in the long trade, you really have no action to take unless we break down through support, and that will be your signal to get out of the long trade and manage your risk accordingly. So this is what I think is going to be the most critical to watch this week. I think it is going to happen this week. And Friday, we have a very important economic data release with the unemployment data, which is driving a lot of the rate decisions right now. So that will be incredibly important to watch. And if at any point the stock market starts to sniff out economic weakness, you will see it happening through price in the stock market first, because the stock market is always going to price in the future. And if at any point the participants in the stock market start having fear of recession, you're going to start seeing it being priced in immediately. Next, we'll go over SPY so that you have the same exact price action triggers to pay attention to on SPY. The bullish scenario is very simple. We just maintain support right there at 655, and we're trying to push higher to the next all-time high, which is right around 668. And then above 668, we start heading higher towards 678. So the bullish scenario is already in effect. I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying that you should be favoring the bear scenario. I simply want you to be prepared for it. And then in the bearish scenario, SPY is actually putting in a lower high rejection here, as you can see with today's price action, failing to break above 664. And then the flush down would be the gap down, and then continuing lower down here towards about 640. Again, the elevator down is much faster, so be prepared for that bearish scenario if we cannot hold support at 655. If you want to get very aggressive, you can start shorting below 661, but the real breakdown through the chart in price will be below 655, and that should bring us down towards 635 to 640. We're already in the bullish scenario, so you don't need to panic and you don't need to exit all of your long positions tomorrow. Only wait through price. If price confirms we're breaking down and getting the bearish scenario, that is when you want to be very quick to manage risk because of the elevator down effect, and it is much better to be prepared than trying to figure that out real time when you're panicking and getting emotional and fearful. So be ready for that if it happens. It's a bull trend until it's not, so do not be surprised if we just continue to grind higher. That is still the highest probability because the bull trend is pushing price higher. But at some point, we will see a correction in this market, and I don't want you to get caught off guard, which is why I'm spending so much time preparing you for this now. Now, one final indication of this is that on the VIX, we had an inside day today. The VIX actually went higher by over 5.3% today, even though the indices went higher as well. And if you know anything about the VIX, it's usually inversely related to the S&P S&P 500. So this is a good indication from the fear indicator, which is the VIX, that the VIX may be ready to spike back above 18 and possibly even 20, which is going to mean we could be entering a market full of fear again if we see the VIX continuing to go higher. And as you saw today, the VIX was already creeping higher, even though the stock market is trying to push out to a brand new all-time high. And typically when a market is trying to push out to a brand new all-time high, you're not going to see a spike in the VIX. So this is definitely something I would not be ignoring. It doesn't guarantee anything. As I said, on SPY and the triple Qs, make sure you are waiting for price action confirmation if you are getting bearish, or at least if you're going to short the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ 100, at least manage risk at a new all-time high breakout. So as I said before, I think it's going to be a very critical week. Everything we do will be decided through price. So when we're looking at the S&P 500, we know exactly what to expect if we break support, and we know price is only going to confirm we're going lower if we see the failure to hold that support through price. So there's no guessing here. Let the price action do all of the talking. Make sure your trade plan is built around managing risk and following price. And I think you will be setting yourself up to have a very successful trading month in October. Remember this week to focus on praise and just enjoying the good things in life. And remember to walk in the light, love each other, and spread love and kindness. And God bless all of you.